Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Nicole.
And this is Christina.
Happy new Zodiacal year.
Happy New Year!
We are in Aries season, that initiatory energy. I have been thinking about restarting healthy habits and patterns that may or may not have slipped away a little bit since the calendar new year.
The calendar new year is in, as we know, the 1st of January. Depending on where you live in the world, it can be a very kind of cold and it's dark, and the thought of springing into new healthy habits doesn't sometimes take flight. But when we look at the Zodiacal New Year and the beginning of spring, I mean, you could use that energy to launch into all kinds of endeavors.
And I think that is definitely a component of the card that we're talking about today. Card number 4, the Emperor, the card for Aries. I want to read something from my Tarot Fundamentals book. It says, when the Emperor speaks to you, he says, I am the part of you creating habits, patterns, and learned behavior. I power your decisions, values, and judgments. I am the part of you that orders the world. I give shape and form to an otherwise unruly existence. I am you, and together we manifest solid change.
That's a good one.
And before we start, we have said this on podcasts before, and I think it's important to say it again for any new listeners. I feel like when we get into this card, the conversation is bound to go into like the yin and the yang concepts. And there's a lot of different ways to talk about yin and yang energy.
It's a huge part of the metaphysical world, the duality, the one and the zero, the positive and the negative. And we get caught up a lot of times in our culture, in our human existence, with assumptions and with characters that begin to represent the duality of existence.
And there are a lot of frameworks through which you can talk about this, and some resonate with me more than others. For example, this idea of the rational and the irrational. I don't love that. And that's okay as you start formulating your own definitions to say that doesn't vibe with me. I don't like the implications of those words. Polarity, I think, can do the same kind of thing, positive and negative. I think it's good to understand what it's driving at, but I still don't care to use that language.
There could even be left and right once you remove all of our cultural messages placed on the words left and right. But we're often looking for something that seems neutral to describe the opposite sides of something. But because of who we are as humans, there's often already baggage attached to those words.
Yes. Even light and dark can be problematic. So what I wrote here, yang can refer to the positive or the masculine, but beyond those labels, we can think of yang energy having characteristics like being projective, activating, consuming, and moving. Yin energy, negative and feminine, but if we move beyond those labels, we can think of the energy having the characteristics of being receptive, nourishing, fertile, and still. And what's super important is that yin and yang live in relationship with each other. One cannot exist without the other. And everyone, regardless of gender identity, contains yin and yang energies within their bodies, minds.
This is one of the cards where that understanding of yin and yang really comes to light, because this card has very specific characteristics of yang energy. The card name is the Emperor. It's often called the father, the grandfather. The card number is 4, Roman numeral IV. The element is fire. Okay, is this a yes or no card? In the book I'm using, it has this card as a maybe. I see this card almost like a no. Checking in deeply on your boundaries.
I do not disagree with that. I would add that I can see a yes, because Aries can be that leap of faith, leap before you look kind of energy.
But when we talk about our Emperor cards in a little bit, we can talk about how those cards make us feel when we look at them, and whether that is a go ahead or a hold in place energy. I think that's true too, that different cards kind of subtly or not so subtly project go or stay. The zodiac sign is Aries, and our podcast from last year, A Real Woman Makes Her Own Luck. Oh, I had so much fun doing that, like when we put that together. But a few notes from that podcast: self-generating, creating energy, like eggs and seeds. That like eggs and seeds are also sometimes associated with the element of fire. It's a source to manifestation and source to manifestation and collective to individual. Aries has a lot of energy and is always looking for ways to express it. You can feel that energy a lot of the times in that restlessness, or I have the ability to take on more right now. Being in that place of just like, how can I help you? What more can I do? What else can I add into my lifestyle right now that feels good, because I've got more energy and more space to bring it in? That's that Aries energy.
It's like potential energy looking to be kinetic energy.
The season is the 21st of March or the 20th of March to the 19th of April. This is cardinal, because this is the first zodiac sign of spring, cardinal fire, vernal equinox, Ostara, following the wheel of the year in our earth-based spirituality, representing new beginnings. And I think you've got a whole preview, don't you, for Aries season?
I do.
Is that in this? Okay. Do you want to do that now? And then I'll go back into correspondences.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Like Christina said, Aries season starts at the spring equinox, and this year, according to my witchy planner, that's going to be March 20th. The sun enters Aries. On the 23rd of March, our planet Neptune is going to be at a position called aphelion. 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 The next day, Saturn will be also at aphelion, which is the point in a planet's orbit where it's farthest from the sun.
Oh.
On March 25th, we have the waxing half moon in Cancer. On March 26th, Venus conjoins Chiron, our wounded healer, in the sign of Aries. On April 1st, full moon in Libra, the sign in opposition to Aries. On April 7th, the moon is at apogee. So it's the furthest point from Earth in the moon's orbit around the Earth will be conjunct the moon. On April 9th, we have our waning half moon in Capricorn. On April 17th, we finally get our new moon in Aries. And as of the release date of this podcast, March 26th, we have the Sun, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all in Aries. Saturn is at 4 degrees of Aries, and Neptune is still kind of hanging back at 1 degree of Aries. And astrologers still consider that 3-degree orb, that 3 degrees of separation, to still be an active conjunction. So the Saturn Neptune energy is still very much active.
What kind of lessons does that hold for us? What kind of Saturnian lessons are we going to be learning at the end of when was that? The end of or the middle of April?
I have a ton more written down, but I'm going to put it in the Substack.
Okay.
So if you want to know everything, well, not everything, but most everything going on in Aries season, you'll have a pretty full list in our Substack.
Okay. The planet for the Emperor card is Aries is Mars, but the card is ruled by Aries. The house, again, is Aries' first house. Moving into the correspondences, the Hebrew letter for the number 4 Emperor card is He. Spiritually, He symbolizes divine revelation, breath, and the 3 garments of the soul: thought, speech, and action. As we're using it for application to our tarot studies, the symbol is window and the meaning is progress. On the tree of life, this is the 5th pathway between the 6th sphere of Tiphareth, ruled by the sun. It's the sphere of beauty. And this, so the pathway between the 6th sphere and the 2nd sphere of Shakma, which is ruled by the planet Neptune and is the sphere of wisdom. The chakra for the Emperor, in my book, it has it as the Muladhara, the root chakra, or the base chakra. Muladhara is a combination of the word mula for root and adhara for foundation, the root foundation. This chakra serves as the foundation for physical, emotional, and energetic stability, and it governs survival, security, and grounding. Very Emperor attributes. For crystals, the book that I reference has red jasper for the Emperor. The red jasper, because of the color and because of the nature of the stone, represents authority, structure, and leadership. It's a stone of strength and stability, which is the Emperor's energy as well. And I think that red color, the author writes that it enhances determination and promotes grounding, because red is also the color of the root chakra. And it supports assertiveness. That red is also the color for drive and virility. Okay, from my collection, I have a piece of red jasper that is tumbled, which is like a rock shape that's smooth, tumbled. But I also have a piece of red jasper in the shape of an elephant. I think that works like for a good Emperor for me, even though I generally see my elephant connection spiritually as a yin or feminine entity, but that's a nice combination of the two. And I have a green stone that I bought sometime when I was deployed to either Iraq or Afghanistan, and it's green. It's either a green jasper or it's a type of soapstone that's in the shape of a ram. That one I feel is even more Aries. And then my final one, I do pick up a lot of rocks now because I'm not too into buying things anymore. I like to go out and find things. And I was lucky enough to go to New Zealand, and I visited the site where they filmed the scenes for Mordor from the Lord of the Rings movies. And I have a rock from there. And I think that's probably what like Mars would look like. And it feels like energy of Emperor to me. It feels like that yang energy. So I have actual red jasper, I have shapes, and I have a rock that I feel like pulls in that energy to me. And I just cleaned my altar this weekend, or just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I have a piece of brick that I picked
Ooh.
up at the beach. There was like a there's like a brick foundation or something. It was old because it used to be an old military fort, and the brick was kind of falling off. But I think that brick is very emperor because of the color and because it is a man-made item from a natural substance. So it has that container aspect to it, because that's what the emperor is the container for the creative energy of the universe. I think I would also kind of go to that brick if I was, or a piece of brick, maybe not like a whole brick, unless you've got a huge altar. I mean, you could do it, but I'm really thinking about that. Oh, and anything that might be square. Do you have any square cut stones? I have four. No, I have a piece of wood that's a cube, and then I have three crystals that are cut in cubes, and I like that for Emperor too because the four, like because of
Mm-hmm.
the shape of the square. And one is clear, one is like a yellow calcite, and the other one is like a clear glass. Some different things to think about, listeners, when you're thinking about a totem or a crystal or an item to put with your um, energetic manifestation using that emperor energy.
I have a lot to
Rock,
say about the number 4 in a little bit.
rocks, bricks, and squares. Or and anything red. And we talked about all of that for crystals and for magical items and correspondences. The symbols in the tarot card for the emperor, I kind of put some of these together: the throne, the crown, the armor, the scepter, and the orb. Okay, all of those are patriarchal symbols of power and authority in our Western culture. They might mean something different in other cultures, but specifically for our culture and the lineage that our tarot cards came from. Well, the cards that were influenced by the Marseille deck and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Power and authority, but also responsibility. Okay? The person who sits in that throne, has the crown, the armor, the scepter, and the globe, are always going to be the adult in the room. How often do you not want to be the adult in the room? How often do you not want to do something, to volunteer, to adult, to take care of a situation? You just want to kind of fade into the background. You don't want to step up. Well, guess what? The emperor energy is always the one who's going to do that because of those symbols, because of that placement, because of that power and authority. With one comes the other. The ram and the horns of the ram and the skull and the horns of the ram, and sometimes the character is even growing the horns of the ram. And that ram is such a part of that emperor symbology, but also Mars, ram, Aries. Like I said, whether it is a ram itself or depicted in some way with that horn or that shape. Often the character, there is the attempt from the illustrator to put the projection of wisdom onto the character, and that is often done with a beard, a gray beard, or a long beard. In fact, the precursors of the Emperor card we have today was a male character with a long forked gray beard. Also, I've seen cards that used books and other references to wisdom and other references to learned knowledge besides the beard. And in our Rider-Waite-Smith deck, in that particular card, that character sitting on that throne with that red robe, and on the background, you see the background imagery there with the red hills and the barren landscape. It looks like he's sitting on the planet Mars. Because we have images now of what Mars looks like. And that wasn't the intent for when those cards were first originally written. The intent was that that red barren background would be a contrast to the Empress's very lush green fertile background. But as I look at it today, I'm like, wow, that is very Mars looking to me today. And it's to show that the Emperor lands are harsh, symbolizing strength and ability to overcome and survive.
I'll just add one more symbol. Behind the throne, there is a little stream of water.
Oh.
And this is, to me, the concept illustrated that nothing can be 100% pure yang. And we think about the yin yang symbol.
Yeah.
There's always, even if it's a tiny dot of yin, there's always yin within the yang and yang within the yin. They cannot exist independently. They must exist interdependently. And so we get that little stream of water running behind the emperor's throne.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of yin somewhere in every card that we can find. The main theme for this card, as I see it, is this card is the yang principle, the yang container, the editor, the seatbelt, the authority, the police officer in this physical world. That is the emperor, yang in the physical material world that we live in. I read a lot of wonderful articles, so many other authors and people talking about the nature of this card. And I said seatbelts because I read that the emperor can represent an actual individual figure, but also like the individual figure of authority, the individual figure of security, but it is also seatbelts. It is also the means and the methods of safety, security, and human influence and ingenuity that put a seatbelt in your car to keep you safe. That's Emperor energy.
So on to the number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have a lot to say. In a nutshell, the number 4 conveys stabilization, structure, the foundation, solidity, anchoring, the archangels, if that vibes with you. And I loved this phrase, heartfelt success and fulfillment. In the book that I'm reading by Alana Fairchild, the way she described the number 4 was just so beautiful. And I wrote down a whole bunch of quotes from that book, The Messages in Numbers. But one of the big takeaways is the connection to the heart driving kind of how the emperor operates. And it ties in a little bit to what Christina mentioned thematically. It's power and authority, but with responsibility. So Alana Fairchild says this, that the promise of the 4 is that we can attain spiritual growth and therefore inner peace and happiness, even while manifesting our dreams and visions in the physical world. We do not have to choose between the spiritual path and the world around us. We can ground our spirituality, our visions, and our dreams into the physical world to walk our talk. Or put another way, to live so that our insides and outsides are in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
That yin yang theme.
Mm-hmm.
When we know that we are being supported by the universe to live the life that is meant for us, that we don't have to live a different life to make somebody else happy and ourselves miserable, then it is easier to have faith in ourselves, to have the discipline to back ourselves through action, and to fall in love with our own life.
Mm-hmm.
She says if you're working on something where there is love present, then it makes the application of hard work more fulfilling and energizing.
We can't create and be creative if we're not safe and we don't have food. It's that
Right.
hierarchy of needs. And essentially the emperor energy is the yang principle of that energy is creating a safe place and a safe environment and a secure place inside ourselves and around ourselves so that we can live out our dreams and our visions.
Yes. And that, my very last quote from Alana Fairchild is basically what Christina just said. The four reminds us of the attention to detail and getting things done on a practical level, the preparation and the steady application.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina also mentioned that this card, because it's Aries, is linked to the first house. And in astrology, the first house is the house of the self, the ego, the identity, and our physicality. And the first house, the cusp of the first house, forms our ascendant line. And like I mentioned a little bit ago, Aries in the first house opposes Libra and the seventh house of balance, partnership, intimacy. So there is this interplay kind of built in with Aries in the first house of our ego, our identity, and the self, and how we interact with other
There's
people.
when we were doing the houses, and it's fresh in my mind that the first house is the house of me, and the seventh house is the house of me and you.
Mm-hmm.
In opposites.
Okay, so card comparisons. I got 2 new tarot decks in the mail literally this morning. So I'm going to go through, I think, 6 cards. We're going to see how this goes. So starting off with my Zodiac Tarot deck, a figure dressed in red is wearing a black cape with the Aries ram on the cape. This figure sits on the throne. What's so different, though, from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is the figure is holding the scepter in the left hand rather than the right hand, like the Emperor does in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So if we go back to that idea of like left and right, like Christina said, the left side is often said to be the yin side, and the right side of the body, the yang side. So interesting change that this creator made. The yin side being associated more so with the subconscious and receptivity. Okay, so in the Medicine Woman Tarot, the Emperor has been renamed Command. We have an indigenous leader sitting in front of a fire holding a pipe, dressed in a sort of orange wrapping cloth, not unlike the Rider-Waite-Smith Emperor. Behind The leader sits, or behind the leader, there's a green tapestry depicting scenes of nature and community. According to the National Park Service, the pipe symbol is a lot deeper, and has many more meanings in Indigenous culture than I think maybe a lot of people realize, because of what has been popularized in our
Mm-hmm.
culture as like the peace pipe. So nps.gov says, as the primary source of communication between the spirit power and human beings, the pipe's many roles in the lives of numerous tribal nations has been far more significant than simply marking the signing of a treaty. And taking that little bit of information and applying it to this card, it seems like there's a suggestion that the Indigenous leader is sort of channeling a divine power or some kind of source power, which circles back to the name of the card, command, this
Mm-hmm.
idea of directing or channeling authority. And the fire, of course, I think is our cardinal fire of Aries. In my Antique Anatomy Tarot, we have sort of like a top half thing happening and a bottom half of the body thing happening. So the top half is really just the skeleton. We have the spinal cord and the rib cage. We do have lungs. And then the lower half is more fleshed out. The right side of this body is showing us the quadricep muscles beneath the skin's surface. And in my notes, I capitalized the quad part of quadricep
Yeah.
because four, we get
Yeah.
the four, the right quadricep, so the yang side. And I went ahead and pulled the Empress card from this deck. And by comparison, because one cannot exist without the other, the Empress card from this deck is revealing the left leg's femur bone. And the femur bone is the longest and strongest and heaviest bone in the human body. And this I pulled from yinyoga.com. This is, I told Christina was talking about yin yoga before we hit record, and I was like, believe it or not, that's gonna come up in the podcast. But this is exactly what we've been talking about the whole time with the yin and yang symbol and duality. So yin and yang are relative terms and need a context to be appropriately applied. Within our bodies, if we use the context of position or density, the yang tissues could be said to be our muscles, blood, and skin, which is what we see in the Emperor card, the yang tissues of the quadricep muscle, compared to the yin tissues of the ligaments, bones, and joints. And we get the yin tissues of the femur bone in the Empress card from this deck. And again, this idea, this theme repeating that nothing is pure yang or pure yin. They exist in relationship to one another.
I like seeing those two cards together. But then again, I looked at the Empress card for almost all of my decks while I was
Me
looking at the
too.
Emperor card. Yeah, yeah, that was really helpful in understanding the symbology in my decks.
Yeah. And I'll put the comparison, or the Empress and the Emperor together. I took a picture. That'll be in the Substack. Okay, card number 4 out of 6. We have Mystic Mondays. A burly, sort of muscular figure sits on a throne between two mountains, conveying the solidity of the number 4. And again, because there's like this musculature that we can see on this figure, that is again conveying more of the yang energy. The back of the throne extends up and dips into the center of the sun in the sky, which is our yang source of life
Mm-hmm.
on this planet. And then in relationship to the sun, the earth being the yin source of life. In my opinion, this card, more so than the other cards, conveys almost this warrior energy. The figure is wearing like a cloak, but it's like a bear skin. You can see like the
Mm-hmm.
claws. And I think this card leans into a little bit of like forceful power over domination type energy.
It also has two pyramids, those two triangles, which are yang symbols. Well, any kind of symbol, like a square or triangle that has like a point, can be considered yang. And a lot of the times, the geometric shapes are like yang shapes too. But there's two pyramids behind that one too. Very yang,
Mm-hmm.
like with even the back of the chair pointing upward with that um, pointed end.
So, one of my new decks, I finally purchased the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann.
Yes.
And like I said, I got this morning. So basically, this figure looks like they're seated on the planet Mars holding the king chess piece. I had to Google
Yeah.
that. I don't know chess very well at all, but it is the king chess piece. And unlike the queen, which can move, I think, in any direction in any number of squares, the king moves one square at a time in one direction. We have the Aries, or we have a ram kind of skull hanging on the wall to represent Aries. And the figure has the a tattoo that looks like the scepter that the emperor is holding in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Lots of reds and oranges in this card. And the figure is extremely composed.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second tarot deck is the Muse Tarot, also by Chris Ann. I couldn't help myself. You know,
You deserve it.
I do. This figure looks like, I mean, she has beautiful curly red hair. It looks like she's wearing this flowy top, but it looks like a mountain. So we get that
Mm.
mountain imagery. And she's kind of standing up, dancing on this very kind of like musical wave, is how I can describe it. And there's other people sort of standing on this kind of wave like image. And I just want to read like the whole entire thing, but I'm going to try to like not. um so the guidebook says she steps onto the solid landscape with all the strength and harmonic leadership that a powerful emperor muse can bestow, sharing her secrets of success with you, leading confidently, graciously, empower those around you to do their best work, be a guardian, a provider, a steward. Revisit how you care for yourself and provide for yourself and for others. There's that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Her heart lights up when she sees the happy earthly hums from the people below. The glow of contented dreams warms the top of the mountains, and peace fills the valley below as they realize that they are protected, fostered, and safe. Just absolutely beautiful language.
I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more of those cards as we're going through the year. I wonder how we're going to do our cards next year. We have all new decks, but we're still moving through the zodiac year, so you know those tarot cards will always be a part of that. I'm sure we'll have plenty. Moving on to my card comparison. Starting, wait, were you finished?
Yes. Finally.
Starting with the Spirit Song Tarot, it's card number 4. It's called the Emperor. The author chose the cougar for the spirit animal with the keywords focus and stability. A group of cougars is called a range or a pounce or a clutch, but I can tell you this, the internet made a strong point that cougars do not hang out together.
Oh.
Cougars do not. The cougars, the mountain lion, the puma, it has so many names. It is like the animal in like that has more names than any other animal like on the planet. The mountain lion, cougar, puma. They live about 8 to 13 years in the wild, 20 years in captivity, and they have the largest range of any mammal in the Western Hemisphere from Canada to the Andes. And that's probably why this particular mammal has so many names throughout thousands of years, hundreds of cultures, hundreds of languages. And they occupy an incredibly diverse habitat. So mountains, forests, deserts, swamps, the whole Americas, and all the different environments. And they are a ambush predator. They're very, very big. They're big. I have not seen a mountain lion in real life. I can't recall seeing one at a zoo, but they're huge. Especially the males are particularly big. They ambush and then they jump on the large animal and then they bite its neck and then bring it down. They can run, but that's not really the way that they get their prey. And they can leap up to 18 feet upward from a sitting position. Can you imagine? That's like my cats at home. Like they'll just be standing on the ground. And I'm telling you, my one little female cat, she can jump straight up in the air and almost pause in the air and then just like, and then just move onto the countertop from like a position of complete rest and just like jump straight up in the air. Cats are amazing little creatures and huge, amazing creatures. To think about these elements of the cougar, the puma, the mountain lion, and all the other names it has, the cougar as a spirit animal symbolizes silent power, leadership, and unwavering focus. We get those elements of that emperor energy. Trust your instincts and master your personal power. And there's an element of also patience and strategy because of the way that the cougar hunts in the wild. And also as a solitary guardian. We did that podcast. It must have been Leo, and I got all obsessed about lions and female deities and how all these big cats throughout history were guardians and solitary guardians. There's also an element of that. And you could think of that energy too in the emperor as far as we talk about protection and security, but also a call to be self-reliant and not to rely on external validation. In the Wild Unknown Tarot, it's Roman numeral IV, the Emperor, and the keywords of protection, stability, and also the Father. This card is a picture of a tall tree in a triangle shape. Comparing this one to the Empress card in this deck, the Empress tree is a rounded tree. So this one is a triangle-shaped tree. It's the tree is in silhouette against a white background. It stands alone, and there's a solar eclipse in the upper right-hand corner. The right-hand corner, right side, yang side, and like I said, the card is in black and white, but there is a fiery orange, yellow, red ring of fire around that solar eclipse in the upper right-hand corner. In the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, this is Roman numeral 4, IV. It's called the Emperor, keyword authority. A male character is sitting not on a throne, but on a rock wall in a beautiful, lush field. And at the character's feet is a black goat, and there's an eagle on the left shoulder. This crown in this card is made of wood. This is a very natural, very earthy feeling. It's holding, or the character's holding the staff in this card in his left hand. I noticed that after you mentioned that in your card. And the character is drawing a line on the ground with the staff, representing that creation of your own boundaries. And this card is so warm. It's so yellow. It's so almost spring-like. It's got that Aries energy to it. It feels very natural and very not agrarian, because this isn't, there's no like tilled fields behind the character. It's like wild, open, and nature. It's like just what's the word I'm looking for? Wild, I guess, almost, except for the stone wall, which symbolizes that safety and that structure. In the
Can I say
guidebook,
something? Oh,
yes.
no. Your guidebook might say it, so I'll wait. Say your
Okay.
part first.
In the guidebook, the author writes, and like I said, this is a male character, so the author writes, his strength comes from a willingness to adapt and adjust. The emperor's flexibility is what fosters his power. He sits on a rock wall, but his limits are not set in stone. The emperor adjusts boundaries as required. I wanted to say that because we're talking about, the four corners, we're talking about pyramids, and we're talking about squares and boundaries, but also we cannot forget that drop of yin in this, which is flexibility and adjustment as necessary.
What I also notice in this card is I believe, hawk resting
Mm-hmm.
on the emperor's shoulder and the ram laying on the ground at his feet. And there's something about when animals are drawn to you and feel
Yeah.
safe around you, and they just are drawn in to your energy.
Yeah. The out of all of my emperor cards, this is the one that I feel like I relate to the energy the most. The character has a long braided hair. There's red poppies in the field. There's an ancient tree behind the character. It just feels very approachable and relatable to me, as far as like the very uh the Rider-Waite-Smith deck emperor. I would not approach that character in person,
Mm-hmm.
but I would approach this character in person. I'm drawn to this character. I'm drawn to that energy. All right, look at this next card. In the Sacred She, it's card Roman numeral for VI. The card name is Order. There's a geometric shape held in the palm of a glowing hand, set against the background of a starry galaxy. It's all purple and dark blue and black, just a ton of stars in the background. And this geometric shape is called the Metatron's cube.
Ooh.
Yeah, Metatron's cube. And it's believed to represent the underlying interconnected patterns of creation. Just a visual representation of creation. It serves as a tool for spiritual transformation, healing, and balancing. We have not done a podcast on sacred geometry yet, but it's just completely spiked my interest in it. And I have some pictures here that, Nicole, you could share, or we could post, or you could just, listeners, you could just type in Metatron's cube and find all this information out there for free on the internet. This symbol is sacred geometry comprised of 13 equal circles with lines extending from the center to each of the centers of the other 12, forming all 5 platonic solids. What are the 5 platonic solids? They are considered the building blocks of all physical matter in the universe. The tetrahedron, the hexahedron, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron. They are also associated with the elements. Tetrahedron is fire, the decahedron is spirit, the octahedron is air. But again, all this was available on the internet. I don't want to go down a sacred geometry rabbit hole, but it definitely got me interested when we do the podcast on the elements. I'm like, now we got to bring in sacred geometry. We have a whole nother layer for that. And in the guidebook, the author wrote another note. They said, make a plan, chart your course with plenty of flexibility to adapt to the stresses of change. Another note from another author on the strength and the foundation of Emperor energy, but with another note on staying flexible, keeping that bit of flexibility in it. But we can get lost in those shapes. Yeah, the cube is earth, and you see the triangles are fire and air. Anyway, we'll talk about that in another podcast. But I was really happy to see such a wide variety of different representations between our decks of the Emperor energy. And listeners, there are thousands of decks out there. There's so many different representations of this yang energy in the physical world. I loved looking at as many Emperor cards as was available online. It was fascinating.
All right, the collection of words. For the Emperor, we can think the divine masculine, ambition, decisive action, efficiency, leadership, which includes looking out for others, generosity, and responsibility, authority, power, confidence, experience, assertiveness, administration, structure, boundaries, order, governance, discipline, being a steward, becoming your own person. This is very much what Aries is all about. Sovereignty, personal power, personal empowerment.
Being the adult in the room, even when you don't want to.
This idea of taking up space, reliability, respect, maintaining that which he or she or they have built, protection. This could also lean into the animus archetype from Carl Jung's work. The yang of the yin is another way to think about that archetype. Generative force and inspired action. In reverse, some meanings could include unchecked power, power over, control, domination, toxic masculinity. It could also represent a lack of personal power, feeling disempowered, being stubborn, rigid, defensive, or reactive, sort of losing that yin flexibility that Christina just shared with us. Chart your course with plenty of flexibility to adapt. If we don't have that, then we are stubborn, rigid, defensive, reactive. And this card in reverse could also be suggesting that there is a need for structure, that structure is currently lacking.
The question from the Secrets of the Witch's Garden to write the reversal, and it says, how can I be flexible in this moment? And we were just talking about flexibility. And that's the question. If you're resistant to this card, this card is reversed and you're like, what is this? Where and how can you be flexible in that moment, in this situation, in your question, in your issue?
So I have 4 cards today. Oh, I just realized I picked 4, but I totally didn't intend to. That's
Oh,
so
okay.
funny.
Okay, Emperor, we're listening.
Right? Okay, so 4
Mm-hmm.
cards. They are from the postcards from the liminal space.
I love those.
So card 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm just absolutely tickled that I did that. I truly had no thought behind it. It's just what happened. Okay. The first card, card number 1, reset. In the
Mm.
face of stagnating energy, disruption in the form of a well placed glitch can effectively restore balance. Cleanse your space or take a trip. Decide to start over now.
Mm.
At the Aries
Mm-hmm.
Zodiacal New Year with the Emperor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Card number 2, elevate. There is no reason you should not make it all the way to the top. Let yourself dream the biggest dream you are capable of. It is inherent in the nature of all things to rise. Expect it, and the powers of manifestation will aid you in the cultivation of this upward intention. That sounds kind of Aries.
Mm-hmm.
Card 3. Absolutely not. While any given situation can produce infinite potential outcomes, your desired one is most unlikely. Repeated obstacles indicate your will is not in harmony with the larger plan. Listen to this sign to prevent further frustration and embarrassment. The answer is no.
That's very Emperor.
Mm-hmm. Very boundaried
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
I like that. Absolutely not.
And card number 4, magic is either everything or it is nothing. No mistakes were made, no wrong turns taken, but you did miscalculate. You are not out of time. The inner commenter does not have access to the greater picture. In fact, it will lead to self-sabotage in this case. You are where you are supposed to be, and even this is magic. Thank you, universe.
Thank you, universe.
Next week, we are starting kind of at the beginning of all these stories we've been telling in 3-card series in the minor arcana. So we're going to be at the very beginning with the 2, 3, and 4 of wands.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see how the stories started.
Yeah.
So until then, listeners, thank you. We love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.